This kid with the battle-hardened face is our protagonist, Zeke Draker. He is the first direct descendant of the legendary Dragon Slayer clan. However, he was unable to awaken, possessing the talent of a healer instead of swordsman. As a result, he was kicked out of his own clan and is currently about to lose his damn life. Because of some mysterious treasure, he has been cornered by a group of villains inside a cave hidden deep within the snow-capped mountains. Looking at his pathetic state, one of the men in the group let out a mocking laugh. "You idiot. Did you really think you could escape this perimeter? Where's the ancient artifact hidden?" As they spoke, they glared at Zeke with eyes full of warning. Right in front of them, Zeke had both of his arms severed during the battle. Yet his face showed not even a hint of fear, instead mocking the bandits right back. "If you were me, would you tell?" Hearing this, a man wearing a hooded cloak couldn't suppress his rage at Zeke's lack of awareness regarding his own situation. "You arrogant bastard," he barked, looking as if he wanted to lunge forward and skewer Zeke a few times. But luckily, his companion beside him remained rational and reached out to stop him. "Let go. We need to contact the main team first." That said, he pulled out a communication stone and spoke to the person on the other end. "We have captured the Northern Ghost. Please confirm our coordinates." In response, a voice echoed from within the stone fragment. "Coordinates confirmed. We will arrive shortly." After finishing the contact, he couldn't help but praise Zeke's tenacity. "You really are unbelievably stubborn. I can't believe you're still hanging on despite both arms being cut off. But why is the Northern Ghost also targeting the artifact the Emperor is searching for?" He asked curiously, but without waiting for Zeke to answer, the hooded companion beside him spoke for him. "What other reason could there be? He's just trying to be a nuisance. We put up with him for a long time. We should have some fun before the main team arrives to pay him back for all the trouble we've been through. You better brace yourself, Northern Ghost, because we won't stop until you're begging for death in utter despair." As he spoke, the villain calmly drew the sword from his hip. Beside him, his hooded comrade thought of something and suggested excitedly, "Let's decide who goes first. We're running out of time." As he spoke, he pulled out a coin and immediately flipped it into the air. "All right then. If it's heads, I go first," the hooded man said with a laugh. While they were both focused on the coin before them, Zeke wasn't about to just sit there and take it. Taking advantage of this opportunity, he opened his mouth and bit down hard on one of his severed arms lying nearby. He pressed it against his wound, and then a miracle occurred as a sudden burst of light erupted from the injury, causing the two separated parts to fuse and recover at a visible speed. "I won't let it end like this without doing anything. The Draker clan's very first failed awakened is me, Zeke Draker. Because I was born into the great Dragon Slayer clan with a body that cannot use aura, I failed to awaken, something that should have been a given for a night. I was treated like trash and exiled from my family. So, I did whatever it took to become stronger just to survive. Someone once said that if you only pursue power, you'll eventually be left with nothing. But that's just nonsense spoken by the strong." Zeke told himself internally, and as soon as his right arm was restored, he quickly snatched his sword from the ground and lunged forward with bone-shattering speed. Wary of this, the two villains were still happily checking the result of the coin. "Sweet, it's heads," the hooded man said joyfully, seeing that he would be the one to deliver the final blow to Zeke. However, the moment he saw the result of the coin, Zeke's blade swept across his throat and directly evicted his head from his shoulders. Everything happened so fast that the companion beside him didn't have time to react. Then, after a second of dazed silence, he hurriedly gripped the sword in his hand, ready to fight. Too bad this didn't allow him to live more than a few seconds longer, as Zeke, immediately after taking down the hooded man, had already turned to charge at him. With a single simple swing, his blade easily sliced the bandit's sword in half, while simultaneously leaving a deep, bone-chilling wound on his body, sending the bandit to meet the Reaper before he could even utter a sound. Looking at the corpse still bleeding out before him, Zeke reminded himself, the weak will be crushed by the strong, and what belongs to them will be stolen. This is the reality of this world. At that moment, numerous footsteps began to echo from outside the cave, catching Zeke's attention. The newcomers were the comrades of the two men who had just fallen. Seeing himself surrounded, Zeke picked up his left arm, attached it to the wound to recover, and clicked his tongue. "Looks like I might not make it out after all." In front of him, the bandits watched Zeke reattach his arm and turn to each other in disbelief. Would he just put his arm back on? He's a freak. How disgusting. But regardless, he'll surely die if we cut off his head. Whispers began to rise. Then, since enemies meeting requires no waste of words, both sides immediately lunged at each other to trade blows with their blades. No one knew how much time had passed, but the battle had ended. On the ground lay the corpses of every bandit slumped in pools of blood, while Zeke himself had countless swords impaled in his back. By now, despite his incredibly powerful regenerative abilities, he knew he had reached his limit. Damn it, looks like I'll be seeing the Reaper soon. Even though I couldn't get my revenge, I managed to steal the artifact the Emperor was looking for. Maybe I did achieve something after all. Thinking this, Zeke pulled a purple crystal fragment engraved with the likeness of a dragon from his coat pocket. Clutching the stone, his hand began to tremble as he whispered an apology. "I'm so sorry, Alicia." At this thought, Zeke's eyes slowly closed as if he were preparing to bid farewell to this world. Simultaneously, the blood on his forehead flowed down to the tip of his nose and dropped directly onto the stone. Then, at that very moment, the stone suddenly unleashed a violent surge of energy. Along with it, a mysterious figure appeared behind his back. The soul of an ancient dragon is deeply engraved into the will of the persistent. Emergency measures have been activated. Zeke Draker, do you accept? Returning to Zeke, these words meant nothing to him, just meaningless babble while he was on the verge of death. "Shut up and just do whatever you're going to do," he muttered inwardly. And as if receiving his confirmation, the voice continued. "Awakening agreement confirmed. An irreversible promise power is being activated. Countdown begins. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Time passed quickly, and now Zeke, in the form of a child, was looking at himself in the mirror, stroking his chin as he thought about everything that had happened. So this is what I look like. So, I really have returned to the past. It's hard to believe, yet I can still clearly feel the sensation of that sword piercing my stomach. This place is so familiar. This is the Draker Clan Training Academy, the Cradle. The Draker Dragonslayer clan is one of the 3 great transcendent families originating from Turkan Draker, the hero who saved the entire continent by slaying the vicious dragon Bahamut in the war 1,000 years ago. His descendants established the current Draker clan, perhaps because they are the bloodline of the Dragon Slayer Turkan Draker. All descendants are blessed with light aura. They can easily awaken Heil light aura and become holy knights. Except for me, Zeke mocked himself inwardly just before that mechanical voice echoed in his head again. Management system booting up. Awakened soul identified. The soul of the awakened has been confirmed as a 100% perfect match. The soul of the awakened has been chosen. Acceptance of the ancient dragon's will and complete integration confirmed. You have access to a portion of the system. Nice to meet you, Zeke Draker. Activating status window view. Opening status window. Low-level administrator status window. Name, Zeke Draker. Class rare healer. Title 1. Blessed by the ancient dragon. Healer class skills. Calm mind vitality recovery. Sensory enhancement. Skills. Low-level precision, stab, ears locked. Requires 10 points to unlock. Current causality, points 0. Returning to Zeke, the screen that suddenly popped up made him a bit curious as he observed it. There's so many things like magic videos. Has an artifact been activated? I can see through this just like a magic video, and it can be navigated the same way. Additionally, class and skills. Dragon language is no longer used in the modern era. Master also said that ancient people classified themselves into classes depending on what they were good at. Each class would train a specialized technique called a skill. Since his class is a healer, he can use a skill called healing. Remembering these words from his master, Zeke involuntarily shivered as he recalled the training sessions in his past life. After he awakened, she had trained him so hard he nearly died. But anyway, according to the status window, I am a healer. Let's test this out. Let's see if the status window is telling the truth. The moment I became a healer in my past life was when I was in my 20s, right after the Ether Hall was unlocked. If that's the case, then thinking this, Zeke closed his eyes and began to concentrate on sensing the energy inside his body. Then immediately after, a source of energy began to pour out of him. And seeing this, Zeke couldn't hide the joy on his face. I knew it. My Ether Hall has been opened. With this, I understand. Even though my trained body is gone, I've returned to the past with my skills and memories compared to before the regression. I'm in a much more advantageous position right now. And to make the most of this, I need to find out exactly what I have in my hands. That said, Zeke focused back on researching the system screen. But before he could learn anything more, a man's voice rang out from outside the door. "Young Master Zeke, I'm coming in." Pretending not to be there is useless. The familiar voice made Zeke jump in a panic as he frantically tried to find a way to turn off the system screen. Not good. I haven't finished reading it yet, but how do I turn this thing off? Outside, the stranger didn't wait for Zeke to invite him in and directly open the door. "I'm coming in. I can't believe you're still not ready. What are you thinking?" This large old man dressed like a butler was Zeke's personal servant, Decker. Turning back to Zeke, seeing that Decker showed no signs of anything unusual, he breathed a sigh of relief inwardly. Perhaps he can't see the window. Thank God. Thinking this, Zeke spoke up. "Ready? Ready for what?" In response to this question, Decker's voice turned angry and his eyes flashed with a dangerous light as he growled back at the protagonist. Are you asking me that seriously, young Master Zeke? It was a perfectly normal sentence from him. Yet, for some reason, it sent shivers down Zeke's spine. Thinking back, I was truly terrified of Decker when I was a child. Despite having the mind of a 32-year-old, I still can't forget the fear engraved deep within my body. As he thought this, his whole body began to tremble uncontrollably until the system sensed his agitation and automatically activated the class skill, Calm Mind, finally clearing Zeke's head. Class skill, Calm Mind. The user's psychological state will not fluctuate regardless of the situation. They can maintain their composure. Returning to Zeke, my anxiety vanished in an instant. Is this also a skill? It's quite convenient that it activates automatically, Zeke thought, nodding to himself. Unaware of any of this, Old Man Decker continued. I have repeated many times that this is a very important event. Are you listening, young Master Zeke? In response, Zeke broke into a smile. Of course, Decker, you're talking about the pancreas assessment test, right? To talk about that assessment test, one must mention a rather fascinating tradition. Every member of the Draker family must undergo a training system called the Cradle starting at the age of 7. 4 or 5 years from that point on, they must endure strictly rigorous basic training. Every year, instructors evaluate the new students through swordsmanship competitions as well as rule-free pancration combat. Opponents are chosen by the instructors, though there are times when students pick their own rivals if both parties mutually agree. Since there are no rules, some end up with severe injuries or even lose their lives. But because this competition is what determines which class the students will attend within the academy, the children have no choice but to fight with everything they have. The scene shifts to a vast arena where a group of children are currently gathered to prepare for the pancration assessment test. On the arena floor, an adult man speaks loudly to the group. As you all know, today is the day of the pancration competition. I trust you all understand that this is the final part of the evaluation, correct? Yes, sir. The children below shout in unison. Hearing this, the brown-haired man continues with satisfaction. Very well. It seems everyone's spirits are high. In that case, we shall begin immediately. Get ready. This man is the head instructor, Panmark. Among the crowd, Zeke is also present. While around him, the other children look at him with eyes full of contempt and judgment. Look at Zeke. He was humiliated last year, and yet he's standing here again this year. If I were him, I would have run away. How'd he even end up in the direct bloodline? Truly pathetic. Hey, I can hear everything. Zeke grumbles inwardly, but he doesn't even bother to react to those words. Back on the arena floor, Pan begins to read the names of the first participants. Aaron God stepped forward. Yes, sir. Both candidates reply and quickly run onto the field. Then, once both have entered their starting stances, Pan shouts begin. The moment the sound fades, a brown-haired boy named God lunges forward like a leopard to seize the offensive advantage. However, before his fist can even touch his opponent, Aaron unleashes a kick straight to his chin, causing his brain to rattle violently and sending him into an immediate faint. Up in the stands, Zeke watches the scene and lets out a long yawn of boredom. That match is over. That's what happens when you don't take a proper defensive stance, Zeke mutters. And sure enough, just as he predicted, God is unable to get back up after taking that single blow. God cannot continue. Aaron is the winner, Pan declares loudly. Thus, the matches slowly proceed, and the more Zeke watches, the more fed up he feels. I thought I was scared to death of this as a kid, but these guys are nothing. That said, he covers his mouth and lets out another large yawn. Unbeknownst to him, at another part of the stands, a freckle-faced kid is staring at him with eyes full of excitement, like he's looking at prey, to the point where his hands are shaking with anticipation. Very soon, Zeke's turn to compete arrives, and by coincidence, his opponent is that same freckle-faced kid. Zeke, Leon, are you both ready? Yes, sir, they both reply. On one side, Zeke sees his opponent is this pancration brat and boredly rubs his eyes, while Leon glares at him with utter disdain. Look at you back again. It seems I didn't take good enough care of you last year. Huh? His words remind Zeke of last year's competition, when a weak Zeke had to kneel and beg him to stop. I'm sorry, Leon Conrad. Please spare me this time. Returning to the present, Zeke feels no concern toward him at all. Well, whatever. He's always been my opponent every year anyway. I'm certain he pulled some strings behind the scenes. His family probably says some nonsense like you have to overcome such dirty tricks to become a true dragon slayer. Why such trash, my cousin? In my past life, the 4 siblings of the direct bloodline never had the chance to meet. However, there are dozens of cousins always ready to bully me. At this thought, Zeke lets out an indescribable smile. Opposite him, unaware of Zeke's internal thoughts, Leon continues to spew contempt. I have to hand it to you, Zeke Draker. You're actually brave enough to return after being beaten to a pulp last time. Or is it that you're too inferior to even learn your lesson? As he speaks, the kid taps his own head. And while Zeke feels a flicker of anger at the provocation, it is immediately erased by his calm mind skill. It's been a while since I've heard such stupid insults from him. Zeke lets out a sigh and glares back with a warning. Hey, I won't be so easygoing if you call me that again. In response to Zeke's words, Leon walks over, rubs his head, and taunts. And what are you going to do about it? You lowly piece of hearing this. Zeke no longer intends to use words to persuade him. In the blink of an eye, he swings his arm and strikes the fool square in the face, sending him flying like a tattered rag doll. Simultaneously, the system issues a notification. Critical strike, skill activated. Do rank critical strike deals critical damage to the enemy. Can be countered if the attack fail. Up ahead, Leon begins to clutch his face and howl in pain like a small dog. My face, he stammers, trembling. Meanwhile, Zeke himself is a bit startled by the power of his own fist. I only intended to knock him out, but my skill activated during a normal punch. I really can't control my abilities well yet. Turning to the head instructor, Pan, seeing Zeke strike suddenly, he questions him. What do you think you're doing, Zeke Draker? You attack before I even declare the start. In response, Zeke sigh at the instructor's naivety. Who on earth says, get ready on a real battlefield? The one who strikes first gains the upper hand. That said, Zeke lets out a cunning smile. This causes Pan to feel an invisible sense of danger surrounding him. Was that bloodlust I just felt? He asks himself inwardly. Meanwhile, Leon has managed to suppress his pain and speaks up. I'm Fine, instructor. Please start the match. I'm going to deal with that lowly bastard, Leon says, his face contorted with rage, while Zeke lets out a mocking smile. It seems you're the one who's too stupid to learn a lesson. Standing nearby, Pan sees that the two are itching to tear into each other and finds no reason to stop them. Very well, get ready. Begin. No sooner are the words out than Leon pours strength into his legs and lunges forward with the speed of an arrow. However, looking at Zeke's calm face, Leon suddenly feels a flicker of fear for some reason. Why am I scared because of that punch just now? But his punch doesn't have enough damage. If I'm on guard, it's nothing. The thing I need to watch out for is his left-hand counterattack. It's too obvious. Thinking this, Leon lets out a secret laugh and immediately ducks to dodge Zeke's punch. Simultaneously, he reaches out one hand to grip Zeke's thigh, while the other grabs the protagonist's waist, pushing forward to knock him off balance. Die, you lowly scum. Leon bellows with joy as if he's already seen his victory. Yet, a second later, he suddenly realizes his body isn't holding firm. And when he looks again, he sees Zeke sitting several meters away from him. What just happened? Leon asks himself, unable to comprehend what just occurred. Unlike him, head instructor Pan, observing from the side, witnessed everything. And it is because of this that he feels utterly stunned. Are you kidding me? Is this really the combat sense of a 12-year-old? The moment Leon dodged Zeke's counter and tried to tackle him, I thought Leon had it for sure. However, Zeke punched Leon in the chin and escaped his grasp. It was Leon's fault for letting his guard down because he thought he'd caught Zeke. But Zeke was too calm. Despite the failed counter, the focus and precision required to land such effective damage so accurately. Is this really the Zeke Draker I know? Pan wonders as he looks at the familiar, yet entirely alien figure before him. Turning back to Leon, a sense of dizziness still overwhelms him, making it impossible to act steadily. Damn it, I can't do anything like this. First, I need to open some distance. Thinking this, before Leon can even step back, Zeke has already dashed in and delivered a powerful hook kick straight to his thigh. The blow causes his whole body to buckle slightly. Crap, he's so small. How is he this strong? Leon gasps inwardly. Next, he regains his posture and throws a punch aimed straight at Zeke's face. You lowly brat. How dare you? As he speaks, Leon thinks confidently. All right, this time I can control my strength. On the opposite side, Zeke begins to activate his sensory enhancement skill, causing all his senses to temporarily heighten. Now, to his eyes, Leon's incoming fist becomes incredibly slow. This feeling is so familiar. Now that I'm used to controlling ether, I'll end this match. Thinking this, he lightly parries the fist, but he isn't done yet. Immediately after, Zeke grabs Lion's arm with both hands and performs a shoulder throw. The throw is so violent that Lion's body cracks the floor into countless pieces upon impact. Yet, Zeke isn't planning to stop. Right after, he activates his precision stab skill, a technique that strikes an enemy's weakness to deal critical damage. At this moment, Zeke's elbow slams into the fool's sternum, causing his bone structure to begin showing numerous cracks. Then, Zeke sits straight up on top of him and raises his fist. Even a fool like you should be able to learn a lesson from this, right? Just try and you'll see. Sweating a bit really clears the head. I can recognize the people here now. Stop starring. If you have something to say, come down here. As he speaks, Zeke scans the weaklings in the stands with a provocative gaze. In response to his words, a kid with reddish-brown hair speaks up arrogantly. Zeke Draker, I choose you as my pancration opponent because, as you said, I have something to say. Hearing this voice, the protagonist pays attention and recognizes him as Jake and Vark, another one of his cousins. Thinking on it, Zeke nonchalantly accepts. Fine, but fighting just you will be boring. Liam Stone, you join in too. As he speaks, Zeke stares intently at the large boy standing right behind Jason. He is Jason's servant. I think the match will only be fair this way. That said, Zeke lets out a contemptuous smile, making Jack grit his teeth audibly. Did you just insult me? He asks through clenched teeth, and Zeke responds with an incredibly innocent face. That's right, idiot. He speaks in a playful tone, but this only makes Liam even more furious. Zeke Draker, I am definitely going to kill you, Jaken mutters to himself. Next, both of them step down onto the arena floor, and before the match begins, Head Instructor Pan reminds Zeke with concern. Don't do anything before I give the signal. Zeke Draker, yeah. Zeke nods in response. At the same time, he focuses his observation on the large boy in front of him. It's interesting to see him here again, the mercenary king Liam. Even in his past life, in his role as Jason's servant, he participated in the cradle and the academy. But because he was a distant relative, he was left behind in his education. He pleaded to attend advanced classes at the Valhalla Academy. But eventually, he joined a knight order of a small country called Baranal. And after Baranal fell, he finally became a mercenary. In chaotic times, people flocked to the strong. And after a long time as a mercenary, he became a Crimson rank knight and established his own stone mercenary army. He unified the 3 largest mercenary guilds and was quickly called the Mercenary King. Being hired by the Empire, Liam's Stone mercenary army participated in the Great Continental War, and I, along with the people of the North, faced Liam as an enemy. Zeke mutters to himself, unaware of these thoughts. Pan sees that both sides are ready and speaks up. Prepare, begin. No sooner are the words out than Jaken launches his sudden lightning-fast attack. His punch is so powerful it creates a sonic boom in the air. However, this punch still isn't enough to trouble Zeke. He catches the fist squarely in his hand. I told you to come at me together, didn't I? Zeke speaks with a cold face, radiating a dangerous aura that makes Jaken break into a nervous sweat. You think I'd fall for your cheap tricks? That said, the boy throws a high kick aimed straight at Zeke's head. However, a moment later, it is Jaken himself who feels a significant pain shoot straight to his brain. The reason is that his previous kick hit Zeke's elbow directly. Look carefully before you kick. Zeke taunts, and because of that injury, Jaken is temporarily unable to launch another attack. Taking advantage of the moment Jaken is focused on his leg, Zeke lunges in to check on his health. Where are you looking? As he speaks, he balls his fist to prepare a strike. Seeing this, Jaken immediately brings both hands up in front of him to defend. However, this is just a feint by Zeke. I think you're overreacting a bit. You can't even see through a feint. That's why I said you should attack together. You aren't enough on your own. That said, Zeke conveniently kicks him straight in the knee, causing him to stagger. Seeing this, Zeke pivots to the side and delivers a punch to the ribs, making Jaken vomit blood from the pain. Having no other choice, he realizes his own weak strength is useless against Zeke and immediately calls for his subordinate behind him. Liam, kill this bastard. The puppy lets out a roar, and this time, facing the future mercenary king, Zeke drops his contemptuous attitude. He's 12 years old just like us, isn't he? The most annoying thing about fighting him is his insane reach. If I let him strike first, I won't be able to do anything. I have to take the initiative. Thinking this right as Liam prepares to swing, Zeke dashes forward. He delivers a straight punch, intercepting the attack before it can even be fully unleashed. Next, Zeke activates his slash skill. D-rank slash, a technique that unleashes a series of attacks on the opponent and obstructs their vision. At this moment, Zeke's body suddenly seems to split into numerous purple shadows, repeatedly launching attacks at Liam from all directions, leaving him no choice but to curl up and defend. Watching this scene, the expressions of the observing students gradually change. This is insane. What the hell is that? They mutter in confusion. Among the entire crowd, only Head Instructor Pan recognizes this technique. That's right. You must be surprised because this is something you've never seen before. Northern boxing techniques from the Central Lands. But in a place where swordsmanship reigns like this, how on earth does Zeke know it? Returning to the protagonist, the continuous barrage of attacks has put a significant strain on his body. He's beginning to curse his current weak physique. Damn it, my body was garbage when I was young, just doing this much, and it's already throbbing with pain. But setting that aside, that guy's monster physique is the real problem. No counter, no dagging. He just takes it all. He's even more dogged than when he was the mercenary king. And my body is almost at its limit. Now I see just how strong he really is. However, I will break through his defense and take him down. Thinking this, Zeke takes a deep breath and concentrates his strength into his right fist. Opposite him, Liam's eyes narrow as if sensing the change in Zeke. So, he begins to focus his mind to the highest level. Next, without any warning, Zeke blurs and appears right in front of him. Simultaneously, he throws a punch, but with incredible reflexes, Liam tilts his head slightly to the side. He slams his palm into Zeke's bicep to redirect the punch. The failed attack leaves Zeke feeling bitter. He dodged. He can't even see ether with his naked eye. Everyone here possesses terrifying senses, he mutters to himself. While Zeke is momentarily dazed, Liam uses his left hand to grab his right wrist. Next, the big boy uses his brute strength to hurl Zeke's body like he's tossing a chair. However, the protagonist isn't one to be outdone. As his body is thrown forward, Zeke tucks his legs, utilizing the momentum to drive his knee straight into Liam's head. After that, he activates his sensory enhancement skill to increase his perception speed and wraps both legs tightly around Liam's neck. No matter how strong a body is, if the brain doesn't get enough oxygen, it can't do anything. Zeke thinks increasing the pressure with his legs. However, Liam doesn't intend to just sit there. He begins using his left arm to repeatedly punch Zeke in the ribs, making him cough up blood. This crazy bastard. Fine then, let's see who wins. He grits his teeth and endures. And so, the two engage in a contest of endurance. And in the end, it is Liam who gives in as he collapses unconscious from lack of oxygen. Up in the stands, another boy watches Zeke's victory and lets out an interested smile. Very good. I expected at least that much from you. It'll make taking you down all the more worthwhile. Zeke Draker. Time passes quickly. The scene shifts to Zeke's private room. Old butler Decker is kindly checking on him. I heard you were seriously injured during the pancration match. Are you all right, young master? If it's not too rude, may I check your pulse? He asks calmly, but his question doesn't fool Zeke. He immediately guesses the man's intention. He probably wants to check if I've awakened light aura. So, knowing his goal, Zeke tells him to wait a moment. He waits until he's finished dressing before offering his hand for the checkup. Seeing this, the old man doesn't forget to say, "Thank you. Thank you, young master." That said, Decker gently touches Zeke's hand and slowly transmits his energy into the boy's arm to investigate. However, the moment he feels the man's energy moving inside his body, Zeke is stunned for several seconds. Wait, is he a blue rank knight? When checking if someone has awakened, people usually just look at the danshin, but he's being incredibly thorough. Just transmitting light aura into another's body is hard enough. Yet he can control it with such precision. He must be a blue rank knight. Not all knights are the same. They are classified based on martial power and proficiency in operating light aura. White rank swordsman is the basic level. Most children who haven't undergone the blessing ceremony are white rank. Next is the yellow rank swordsman, which is the level when you awaken light aura and open your danshin. All students at the cradle become yellow rank after the blessing ceremony. Once you learn to control light aura at will, you are granted the title of knight. A purple rank knight is the level where you can enhance your blade with light aura. A blue rank knight is the level where you can manifest light aura blades. And then there is the realm of the transcendent, the limit of Liam, the mercenary king back then. And the level I achieved before regressing was red rank knight. There's also the black rank knight, but there are only a few such monsters on the entire continent. So, how does someone strong enough to be a commander end up becoming my caretaker? No, more importantly, he shouldn't be able to detect my ether. There are only 2 people in the world who can use it, Zeke mutters to himself. And just as he predicted, after a period of checking, Old Man Decker finds nothing and has to stop his probe. However, his instincts still tell him that Zeke is hiding something. Young master, is there something you're hiding from me? He asks, staring at Zeke with sharp eyes. Hearing this, Zeke doesn't answer, but asks back, "Is that so? Are you hiding something from me?" Zeke's sudden question leaves Decker silent for a moment. Then, without waiting for an answer, the protagonist waves it off. "I'm just joking." Hearing this, Decker lets out a breath and turns to ask, "Why have you changed so suddenly, young master?" In response, Zeke looks at him with the eyes of a superior. "Wrong question, Decker. You should be asking why it took me this long to change. Many things will change from now on. Everything will return to its rightful place. So all you need to do is follow behind me." On the opposite side, Decker remained silent for 2 seconds after hearing that, as if evaluating the words. Then he bowed his head. Certainly, young master, I understand. I have prepared the training room, as you requested. Good. I like that you're always quick on your feet, Zeke said with satisfaction. Then I'll see you later, young master. Please get some rest. Zeke waved him off and quickly stepped out of the room. At the same time, Zeke vaguely guessed why someone so powerful was by his side. If he was ordered to watch me, then I just need to keep him close to pry for information when the chance arises. The problem is who ordered him to tail me. I don't think it's someone from my mother's side. It's definitely one of my siblings, Zeke deduced internally. The scene shifts to the training room. It seemed this was the first time Zeke had been here, so he was a bit surprised by its sheer size. Well, is this a private training room? This clan certainly lives up to its reputation. He marveled. He muttered to himself and quickly opened his status window to check. Next, Zeke promptly noticed the changes within his status. My slash skill has reached proficiency. Does it increase the more I use it? Skills are activated naturally based on my actions, meaning I had them from the start. If I learn something new, will it be added here as a skill? What is the difference between skills and class skills? They seem to be activated in a similar way. And this one too, dragon human skills. I can't view it currently and need 10 points to unlock it. Thinking on it, he tried clicking the causality points button to check, and the system quickly issued an explanatory notification. Causality points. You can obtain causality points by killing monsters. Current causality points 0. After reading the description, Zeke's face showed a few signs of deep thought. Monsters? Huh. There are tons of them in the dungeons, but I need to at least become a purple rank knight to go there. Furthermore, I'm more curious about why I reincarnated into the past and what this system is. These skills and classes tell me it's definitely related to that ancient treasure. But I have too little information right now, Zeke thought, becoming increasingly curious. However, unable to come up with anything for now, Zeke threw the issue to the back of his mind to investigate later. Phew, whatever. As long as it helps me get stronger, I'll use it. Whether it's this system or being a Draker, he muttered, struggling to lift the sword before him. But his whole body shook uncontrollably just from its weight. Next, while holding the sword, Zeke reviewed his knowledge of training from his past life. There are 2 types of power known in this world. The light aura of knights and the mana of mages. Knights enhance light aura within their dantian, while mages operate mana using magic circles. These 2 powers are at opposite poles. So if you've awakened one type, you cannot awaken the other. However, I was unlucky enough to be unable to awaken either a dantian or a magic circle. So I was rejected by my clan and met my master during my days of wandering. He taught me many things, but the most useful thing he taught me was about healing skills and the ether chamber. Through the ether chamber which my master developed, I was able to use the energy of nature ether. Master and I are the only number 1 users in the world. Thinking this, he swung his sword frantically for practice. Time passed quickly, and 2 hours later, Zeke was dog-tired. Huff huff. Only 2 hours of training, and I feel like I'm about to faint, but I should be fine, right? He spoke while trying to prop up his collapsing body with his sword and to resolve his fatigue. Zeke activated his healing and vitality recovery skills, causing his tired body to immediately feel as refreshed as before. Healing is a very rare skill that I didn't even know existed until I met my master. If I use it in front of everyone, they'll think I'm a freak. That's why I couldn't use it in the match against Liam. I have to quickly heal myself as soon as I get back to my room. Now that I've recovered back to it with that, he plunged back into training once again. Time passed until evening. By then, Zeke finally stopped because his stomach had started drumming for food. Huh, time for dinner, I guess. Zeke let out a soft breath before looking at the floor covered in sword marks and wondered how he would explain this to Decker. Thus, time passed quickly. 1 week later, the scene shifts to the Cradle's dining hall. People were beginning to gossip about Zeke's change. Hey, have you heard about Zeke? He's completely different now. Someone spoke up, leaving the person beside them a bit startled. Is it that failure? Did he dabble in black magic? I hope he disciplines those stronger guys. Right, another agreed. The scene shifts to a luxurious dining room where 4 young masters were eating together. At this moment, Rian was eating like a starving ghost. Elsewhere, a handsome boy spoke up to remind Leon, you might not have an appetite, but eat. You need energy for the swordsmanship match. This handsome boy's name was Owen Simmons. In response to these kind words, Leon clenched his fists and snapped. Are you trying to annoy me? I'm just being friendly, but it seems your inferiority complex is quite bad. Owen's cold reply made Leon unable to suppress his anger. He immediately slammed the table and shouted, what? The impact caused the steak on Rian's plate to fly off, and Leon began to receive a very unpleasant look from him. That cold, sharp gaze made Leon unable to even face him. Setting that aside, Jakin spoke up about Zeke. So, what does everyone plan to do? Zeke Draker at those words. Owen's expression immediately changed. I'm not sure the Pancration match was savage, but also very impressive. However, he'll be pathetic when it comes to swordsmanship. What can he do when he can't even hold his sword properly? Hearing this, Leon immediately clung to the excuse. Exactly. He's so weak he had to order a custom sword because standard ones are too heavy, right? There's no reason I'd lose to that lowly trash. I'm sure everyone who watched knows he only beat me in Pancration because of luck. Turning to RNA, seeing those weaklings constantly making excuses for their failure, he stood up from his chair. Luck, if you truly believe that, then you people have no right to become knights of the Draker clan. With that, he left the table immediately, refusing to sit with them in contempt. A sword match, unlike Pancration, involves swordsmanship and is the cause of most accidents in the cradle. It's also where the skill gap between students is clearly shown. And 1 month after the current exam, the blessing ceremony will be held, the event where the Drakers awaken their light aura. The scene shifts to the arena. Now, head instructor Pan speaks up. Zeke stepped forward. Hearing this, Zeke stepped forward, carrying an absurdly long sword, which made everyone feel strange. What's with that ridiculously long sword? Does he think using a big sword makes him stronger? Whispers began to rise from the stands. Opposite him, Zeke's opponent was that girl, Renee. Zeke Draker. I choose you as my opponent, she said with a burning battle spirit. While Zeke feared no one, he immediately locked in a match. Sound good. I accept this challenge. With that, he pointed his sword directly at her face. Hearing this, Riona calmly drew her sword while speculating about Zeke's strength. He holds that sword with 2 hands so easily. Looking at him now, I can say that this is no longer the Zeke I knew, the one who could barely hold a sword. Is it because he's grown up? His light aura. The more she thought, the more bewildered Rhea felt. Then very quickly, she gritted her teeth and reminded herself, what am I saying? I can't let him intimidate me before the fight even starts. I confidently accept. Back to Zeke, despite his confident declaration. In truth, he didn't feel it would be that easy, as I've always done. But fighting the Lightning Knight will be quite a stressful matter. Rian Chiron, also known as the Lightning Knight, was one of the knights who made a name for themselves in the Continental War and was recognized as one of the strongest in the next generation of the Draker clan. As one of those who awakened light aura before the blessing ceremony, she must have awakened it several years ago by now. But she didn't use it in the cradle. She said she wanted to improve her basics, Zeke thought. Next, head instructor Pan, seeing both ready, shouted begin. The moment the sound faded, Rhea blurred like a flash of lightning and lunged her sword straight at Zeke. However, this attack was parried to the side by Zeke's own blade. Seeing this, Rhea immediately retreated to maintain distance. Next, the girl used her speed advantage to circle around behind Zeke. She unleashed another powerful sword thrust. Yet this strike was still blocked by Zeke's horizontal blade. However, the force of it was not to be underestimated as Zeke's body was nearly pushed off the arena floor after taking the hit. She's better than I anticipated. Zeke praised her internally. Meanwhile, RNA gave Zeke no time to think, launching a relentless assault. In the stands, the foolish Leon, unaware of their true strength, screamed, "Stop playing with him. Finish him in one blow." Rihanna hearing this. Jakin beside him reluctantly tried to explain to the idiot. Seriously, you're an idiot. Does that look like Rian is playing with him? Back to Rhea's perspective. While launching strikes to pin Zeke down, she was also calculating how to break through his defense. Though narrow, I can still sense a gap. However, no matter how quickly I try to exploit it, his sword meets mine as if predicting my efforts, and immediately another gap appears. Yes, this is just like a training duel intended to teach me. The more Rian thought, the more she doubted her own senses. Then after another blade clash, Rian's figure was pushed back, and both sides temporarily paused their offensive rhythm because Riona's face was dripping with sweat from the continuous exertion. Meanwhile, our protagonist hadn't broken a single drop of sweat. In fact, he felt a bit bored. So, this is how the Lightning Knight fought when she was in the cradle. Her sword is so straightforward, as expected from someone obsessed with basics, but that's exactly what's holding her back. Let's see. Why don't I try to help her break out of her shell? Thinking this, Zeke lowered his stance like a cheetah preparing to sprint. Opposite him, the female swordsman immediately became alert at this stance, an extremely low offensive posture. He intends to close the gap in one strike. My speed is not ordinary. Bring it on, Zeke Draker, Riona thought. Immediately after Zeke launched his attack, his body flashed once, and he was already in front of her. But as long as there is distance between us, Reacting to his actions is not impossible, Rian thought, hurriedly, dodging the protagonist's sword strike. However, she couldn't predict Zeke's next move. Now, he began to swing his sword diagonally, slicing across the floor toward Rian. His strike sent countless stone fragments flying with it, successfully hitting her in the face and leaving it bloodied. However, having no time to notice this, Rian hurriedly regained her posture. But Zeke had already taken advantage of her being off balance to lunge in. He lunged his sword directly toward the swordsman's throat. I'm finished, Rihanna thought. Yet afterward, by some miracle, her speed and strength suddenly increased unimaginably, and she immediately knocked Zeke's sword out of his hand. Around them, the crowd watching her victory cheered like mad. Zeke lost as expected of Ri. She didn't even use light aura like always. Unlike them, Pan, who had been observing from the start, had an entirely different thought. No, the students don't realize it. But when Zeke's attack approached Rian, she used the smallest amount of light aura possible, an amount so tiny it was almost undetectable. Rian, who promised never to use light aura until officially entering the academy. He forced her to do it, he said, looking at Rian with a dazed face. Meanwhile, Zeke took the opportunity when she was off guard to lunge forward without any hesitation. What are you doing? The battle isn't over yet. That said, Zeke unleashed a strike aimed straight at Riona's throat, making her bleed immediately and fall to her knees before him. In the stands, everyone who saw this began to hurl insults. This is a standard sword fight. We won't tolerate such a cowardly attack. That's right, a knight who throws away his sword. This is Rian's victory. You don't have the quality to be a knight. What a disgrace. Shouts began to ring out. However, Zeke didn't care for the gossip at all. To him, as long as he won, it was fine. Opposite him, after a few seconds of rest, Riona struggled to pull herself up. Seeing this, Zeke asked, "Do you want to continue?" Hearing this, the girl's inner thoughts were in turmoil. I haven't lost yet. He only landed that hit because I was careless. Careless? If he hadn't used his bare hands, but had a dagger, I wouldn't even have a chance to stand here. Thinking this despite being unwilling, Renee admitted, I lose. At her admission, the entire arena suddenly fell silent. Pan, as the referee quickly announced the result. The winner today is Zeke Draker. Zeke Draker, who just days ago was called human trash, had triumphed over one of the most talented children in the prestigious family. The scene shifts elsewhere to a ruined castle where countless soldiers' bodies lay scattered. It seemed it had just undergone a monster attack. While others were cleaning up, two men were sitting inside a room drinking tea together. The black-haired man of the two looked at the person opposite him with a very pained face. Abel, you can still drink tea in this situation. Zeke, they say that Brat defeated Rian, he said, glancing at a letter placed on the table. To this question, the man named Abel gently shook his head. William, you're always so serious. How much longer until the blessing ceremony? We have time until the next full moon. William replied. Then it seems now is the right time for a home visit, Abel said, calmly walking toward the door. His words made William jump a bit. What? You're going there personally? It has piqued my curiosity. I'm interested to know what kind of awakening our youngest went through, he said, looking out the window with a cold gaze. Back to Zeke. Although his victory shocked the entire cradle, he simply returned to the facility and continued training. Time passed quickly. 1 month later, on the day of the blessing ceremony, Zeke was still buried in his own training. The more he trained, the more Zeke felt a bit confused. I really don't understand how I could have become a red rank knight in my past life with this body. Opening his status window, he muttered, and immediately the information screen was displayed before him. After a month of nonstop training, Zeke's skills had significantly improved. His precision stab reached proficiency, critical strike reached master, and agility footwork reached master. Looking at the descriptions, Zeke was relatively satisfied. As expected, some of my skill proficiencies have surpassed the proficiency level. Skill rank up and proficiency reset. I even raised the proficiency of agility footwork, a skill I gained during combat. Thinking of this, a knock suddenly came from the door, and even without turning, Zeke recognized the person standing outside. Decker, what do you want? He asked, and the old man reminded him of the blessing ceremony. We depart in 2 hours, Decker said calmly. Fine, I'll be there soon, so prepare everything. Zeke nodded in response. Thus, after completing his preparations, Zeke climbed into a carriage and headed to the main mansion where the blessing ceremony was held. Sitting in the carriage, Zeke stared blankly ahead and thought, it's been a long time since I've been at the main mansion. It belonged to the Draker clan, located within the territory of the Duke of Troy. Although the main house was located in the center of the continent at the seasonal fortress in the Central Lands, the blessing ceremony had to be conducted at the main mansion, the origin of the Dragon Slayer legend. The scene shifts to the Draker clan's main mansion, the Dragon's Lair. Inside the Grand Hall, all the children of age were gathered to prepare for the ritual. And while the entire group was standing solemnly, Zeke glanced left and right, observing his surroundings and assessing the situation. I never realized this before, but all these guests are famous people you only hear about in continental newspapers. I'm sure the clan has also sent people to gather info and monitor me. Regardless of their intentions, once they see me fail to awaken, I'm sure they'll just ignore me. Thinking this, Zeke suddenly felt a certain gaze focused on him, which caught his attention and made him turn to look. When he saw the owner of the gaze, his face immediately turned very angry. Why is that bastard here? In another corner of the hall, two men were shaking hands. It's been a while, hasn't it? Huh, indeed, it has, Abel replied. Hearing this, the person opposite asked curiously, So, what is the reason for your presence at this blessing ceremony? Has someone in this class caught your eye? In response, Abel immediately waved it off. No, I have another reason. It's in LT, Unk and GT. Just a coincidence that my lovely youngest brother is also here, he said, glancing at Zeke below. This man was the second son of the Draker clan, the Lion Sword, Abel Draker. Returning to Zeke, despite being incredibly angry at seeing the opponent, he reminded himself to stay calm in the current situation. The Butcher Knight, Abel, calm down. There's nothing I can do right now. In my past life, Abel would never have come to see my blessing ceremony. Has my action changed the future? If that's the case, this could be an opportunity for me. Thinking this, Zeke's hand clenched until it shook. Unaware of these thoughts, the voice of the ritual officiant rang out. All right, we will now begin the blessing ceremony. Aaron, step forward. Yes, sir, Aaron replied, and quickly stepped forward to where a statue of a knight with a massive great sword stood. In front of the statue was a giant bowl filled with water. Next, knowing what he had to do, Aaron rolled up his sleeve and dipped his arm into the bowl of water. Next, a few drops of blood began to seep from his palm. And immediately after, the water began to emit a glow that ran along Aaron's arm to help him open his dantian. Through the blessing ceremony, all members of the Draker lineage awaken their sealed light aura when it's time for them to graduate the cradle at age 12. Compared to normal knights who awaken at age 20, it's incredibly fast. Among them are a few rare cases where, along with light aura, they also awaken a Dragon Slayer trait called mana suppression. They will at least reach the yellow rank swordsman level, with a few even rivaling crimson and black rank knights and undergoing true blood awakening. Beside him, Pan saw Aaron had finished awakening and nodded. All right, next. Hearing this, the female swordsman Rian began to step up, and in her case, the light emitted by the knight statue was red. Seeing this, Pan's eyes showed immense joy, and he immediately ordered a soldier nearby to fetch a pair of gauntlets for her. To explain this, because of monosuppression, all such people are required to wear special gauntlets made by their family. Otherwise, they cannot live a normal life. When a person proves themselves to be a descendant of true blood, they are granted the Draker surname along with unimaginable support from the clan and countless privileges. Thus, each child took turns going up to awaken their light aura until it was the protagonist's turn. Because he was a direct descendant, everyone was waiting to see what he would awaken. Oh, it seems the main course has finally arrived. I wonder what awakening he'll go through. Someone asked curiously, while another immediately voiced their opinion. True blood awakening. Obviously, he defeated Rian. After all, returning to Zeke, hearing the continuous gossip around him, he was laughing to himself. I never thought I'd stand before this damn statue again. The last time is truly horrible. Even though the blessing ceremony was the only thing that pushed me through the cradle, I received a title of disgrace. However, this time everything is different. I can not only heal, but also use ether. Above all, I won't give up or surrender. I have stood up on my own will, so please help me, you damn statue. Thinking this, he dipped his hand into the cool water. Next, the knight statue shook incessantly. Yet only a few seconds later, it suddenly stopped without warning, leaving the group of guests watching around in a daze, looking at each other without understanding. It stopped. This has never happened before. In another corner, Abel also looked at his little brother with a bewildered, uncomprehending gaze. Returning to Zeke, although he knew the result beforehand, experiencing it again, he couldn't suppress the anger on his face. I knew it. I shouldn't have expected things to change. Thanks to that bastard, I became overconfident. Thinking this, he withdrew his hand from the giant bowl and took out a towel to dry his arm. Around him, the guests began to look at Zeke with skeptical eyes. What is this? He failed to awaken. Can that happen? But why? It seems the clan head's blood was not enough to suppress the cursed blood, someone said mockingly, but was immediately interrupted. Hey, shut up then. How did he defeat Rian? He must have used some trick. What a disgrace to the clan. On this side, Zeke heard the gossip, but wasn't very surprised, as if he were too familiar with it. These people never change. It doesn't matter. There are many ways to get stronger besides awakening. Zeke muttered to himself, but at that exact moment, the system sent him a notification. I apologize, Zeke Draker. Due to a processing error, a message was hidden. Missing essential information detected from the identification engine during the professional identification process. Class information was entered using system administrator privileges. Missing essential information detected. Input of class information is complete. The engine has identified the user's talent as a healer, confirming your class has been unlocked. The received class has been identified as a rare class. A series of notifications began to appear, leaving Zeke somewhat unable to understand the situation. Something is different from my past life. Missing essential information detected. No way. Thinking this, he immediately turned back toward the statue. And now it was emitting a red glow. Exactly. Like when Rian had awakened, which made the guests wide-eyed again. It's red. This is true blood awakening. He's starting with red. Setting that aside, the system continued to issue other notifications. The engine has created a connection. The ancient dragon's blessing sealed in the user's soul has been activated. Talent of the gladiator bloodline has been awakened. Your awakened talents have merged. A combination of rare talents. A new class has been created. Unique class immortal. Returning to the group of guests observing from the side, looking at the statue that was emitting a red light, but now suddenly shifted to a golden glow. Their minds were truly thrown into chaos. Golden light. What is this? Is it a true blood awakening or not? It seemed red just a second ago, so that should be right, shouldn't it? Someone spoke with a voice full of uncertainty. On the side, Zeke heard the gossiping voices, but wasn't too surprised. It's obvious they'd be suspicious, but if I speak up now, it'll only cause me trouble, Zeke told himself. Meanwhile, the group of guests continued to whisper to one another. But the mana lamp isn't showing anything at all. Is the sword statue malfunctioning? There's no mana suppression, so how could it be a true blood awakening? In response to these questions, for some unknown reason, suddenly Abel pretended to be kind-hearted and began clapping to draw everyone's attention. Why does everyone look so serious? We've had 2 people awaken true blood in a single batch. Is this not something worth celebrating? Hearing these words from him, the people inside the grand hall began to look at one another with probing eyes. Then very quickly, they understood his intention. It seemed that if a member of the Draker clan was unable to awaken light aura, it would be an incredibly humiliating matter. Thus, in an unclear situation like this, it was best to let Zeke successfully awaken true blood to preserve the clan's honor. The surrounding guests understood this and immediately began to clap along. That's right, 2 true blood awakenings. What a blessing. They cheered excitedly. Seeing this, Abel nodded with satisfaction and turned to head instructor Pan. What are you waiting for? Quickly bring the gauntlets for our newest member. Yes, sir. Pan bowed and quickly had someone bring over a pair of gauntlets and toss them to Zeke. Looking at his gauntlets, the protagonist tried to sense them for a moment and muttered, "These are a bit heavy." That said, he quickly moved away from his spot to make room for the remaining children to awaken their light aura. And even though he had received Abel's help, Zeke only felt a sense of discomfort surrounding him. His intention is too obvious. But receiving help from Abel feels like stepping in time passed quickly, and after all the children of the clan had completed the awakening ritual, Pan stood up to announce, "This concludes the blessing ceremony. We will soon have a celebration feast. It is for everyone, so please enjoy it." Around them, the children heard about the feast and began to laugh with pure joy. It seemed their arduous life in the cradle had finally eased up a bit. Only Zeke paid no mind to it and turned to leave the hall. Stupid feast. There must be a training room around here somewhere, right? Zeke muttered to himself and moved quickly to find a training room. However, before he could take more than a few steps, his brother Abel's voice rang out. "Hey Zeke, the feast just started. Where are you wandering off to?" He spoke with an incredibly gentle face. Yet, the protagonist felt as if he were being stared at by a venomous snake. I didn't expect him to strike up a conversation with me so fast. He muttered to himself. Next, Abel, with the air of a model older brother, reached his hand forward to congratulate Zeke. Congratulations on awakening true blood. In response to this action, Zeke also smiled and reached out his hand to greet him because he knew that if he refused now, he would reveal his hostility toward him. So, he temporarily complied. Thus, just as their hands were about to touch, Zeke remembered a certain sad image from the past, causing the atmosphere around him to suddenly shift. And Abel immediately noticed this. Haha, this is truly awkward, isn't it? Zeke. On the opposite side, Zeke also gritted his teeth and thought, Even to save face, I can't bring myself to shake this piece of trash's hand. Returning to Abel, he seemed not to notice Zeke's angry expression and waved it off. Well, I guess I'll have to be satisfied with just seeing your face. Well, then, see you later, Zeke. That said, he gave him a pat on the shoulder and departed immediately. Meanwhile, Zeke waited for him to leave and then hurriedly wiped his shoulder as if he were afraid the other man had made it dirty. Fine. See you later, he thought through gritted teeth. Inside the feast, people were still gossiping about Zeke. 2 new True Bloods, huh? That's right. Zeke's golden light was quite a surprise. This is the first time that's ever happened, isn't it? I thought he'd failed to awaken. So where's he now? Someone asked curiously. At the same time, our protagonist was currently inside his private room, tiredly stripping off his formal wear. Phew, I thought I was going to suffocate in there. Setting that aside, why am I unharmed? All true blood awakenings are supposed to carry mana suppression. It is the ability to prove you are an adversary of dragons, the source of mana. However, because most machines use mana as fuel, true bloods are required to use the clan's gauntlets. If I really were a true blood, there should have been an issue the moment I took off the gauntlets. Thinking this, he opened his status window to check his information again. And sure enough, there was a stark change. His class had changed from healer to immortal, and new skills appeared. Mona reversal rank a rookie, and overall buff rank a rookie, and his causality points were now at 100. Looking at this information, a sense of curiosity arose within Zeke. This is completely different from that place. Not mana suppression, but mana reversal, but I need to read more carefully. That said, he focused on the mana reversal skill, and the system quickly provided an explanation. Mana reversal creates a distortion field to neutralize nearby mana. After reading the description, Zeke's eyes gradually understood a few things. So, mana reversal is classified as a skill. The mana lamp wasn't affected because it's not a passive skill. Before the ceremony, I was a rare healer, but now I've become a unique immortal. Wait a minute. All the graduates awakens normally with blue aura. Only RNA had the red true blood awakening. Mine was also red at first, but it changed to golden. The system said the identification engine was missing essential information. Identification engine. Does it mean the bronze statue? The moment the system input the information, the statue that it stalled emitted a red light. Damn it. Is that really it? So that's how it is. That bronze statue doesn't determine whether one awakens or not. It determines the user's characteristics and their class. Red is for a rare class and gold is for a unique one. The bronze statue is an ancient artifact used since before the time of Turkin, the founder of the Draker clan. In that era, the concept of classes didn't exist, so it was only used to determine if someone awakened. They might have mistakenly established that the red light, the manifestation of a rare class, was the identifying sign of true blood. Honestly, not a single clan had ever discovered this. Now I have causality points. Did I receive them back then? Let's try using them. Thinking this to satisfy his curiosity, Zeke quickly clicked the confirmation to use points for Dragon Arts. Next, his points dropped from 100 to 90 and a series of system notifications popped up. Your Dragon Arts are now available for viewing. Opening Dragon Arts. Dragon Art Tier 1 Dragon Eye allows the user to view detailed information of an individual after careful observation. Locked requires 20 points to unlock. Dragon Art Tier 1 Dragon Might allows the user to make enemies surrender using aura. Locked requires 30 points to unlock. Dragon Art Tier 1 Gluttony allows the user to eat and digest vast amounts. Locked requires 50 points to unlock. Returning to Zeke after reading the skill information, he muttered about which skill to unlock as his current points were only enough for 2 skills. Let's see. Now I have Dragon Eye and Dragon Might. Better to take what is clearly good than something risky. Thinking this, he quickly unlocked his Dragon Eye and Dragon Might skills. Gluttony seems dangerous. I'll save that for later. So, let's try using Dragon Eye. As soon as the skill was activated, one of Zeke's eyes immediately turned golden like a dragon's eye. Oh boy, I expected more since it said detailed information, but truly nothing has changed, Zeke said dejectedly before he went out onto the balcony to observe more closely. Then the scene before him made Zeke gasp in shock. Haha, this is truly absurd. The statue in the middle of the garden looks like it's right in front of my eyes. This could actually be very useful. Zeke laughed. Next, the system suddenly sent him a reminder notification. Do you want to receive detailed information on the detected target? Seeing this, Zeke was a bit curious and clicked the agreement. Next, a series of information appeared before his eyes. From tables and chairs made of Oliver wood to a chest of drawers crafted in the Merc Empire. Returning to Zeke, before he could research much more, the light in his eyes slowly began to fade. Then he felt a wave of dizziness hit him. What? My body are all Dragon Arts like this? Then I can't use them too much, Zeke said tiredly as he sprawled on the chair. However, at that exact moment, the healing and vitality recovery skills automatically activated, causing his fatigue to vanish instantly. However, Zeke was a bit curious about it acting on its own. What? I didn't have any intention of using healing, the young master said curiously and checked his status, and then his eyes widened when he saw the changes in his skills. Wait a minute. All my class skills have turned into passive abilities and their levels have increased. This is a bit much. Previously, being able to heal was considered a very strong skill, but it wasn't something I could use continuously, and its healing effect also had limits. However, now self-healing is infinite. I have to check this. No sooner said than done. Zeke took a fruit knife nearby and immediately slashed his forearm, causing it to bleed nonstop. However, just a few seconds later, the wound closed and healed as if it had never been there. Looking at this skill, Zeke suddenly felt like he might have to change his plans a bit. Unbelievable. It takes 5 years to graduate from the academy, doesn't it? 5 years, huh? But I'll only need 2 years. Zeke laughed. Draker Academy, the greatest knight academy on the continent, where those with knightly ambitions are willing to pay a high price to attend. The Duke of Troy's territory where the academy is located is overflowing with vitality every new semester in the spring. At this time, Zeke's group, having awakened their aura, had enrolled here, and while walking around, Zeke scanned and assessed the students of the same age. The senior students are no different from adults because they're trained to perfection. However, compared to those from the cradle, they're a bit lacking, but they're still the children of great families. Thinking this, Zeke glanced at the groups of people already huddling together in factions and shook his head in disappointment. It seems they've already marked their territory. This clan is rotten to the core. Among the countless branch families supporting the transcendent Draker clan, there are 3 families with the greatest influence known as the 3 Great Families. First is the Turon family with the title of Strength, Simmons family representing wisdom, and finally, Vark, the family famous for its vast wealth. Even the children of those 3 families are currently in this state. But whatever, it has nothing to do with me, he thought, shrugging and quickly headed back to the dormitory. His dormitory was the most high-class one, the Platinum Tower. The Platinum Tower was a dormitory with a training hall, a library, and all sorts of facilities. It was only for elite students, and even those from the cradle couldn't easily enter. As for the true blood awakened, they were granted privileges known as floor masters for an entire floor called the Platinum Floor. At this moment, as soon as he entered the building, a maid was already waiting and bowed to Zeke. Welcome, Master Zeke Draker. We have been waiting for your arrival. We will escort you to your sign floor. Beside her, 2 rows of servants also bowed in unison. Welcome, young master. Returning to Zeke, seeing himself treated like this, he felt a bit awkward and unfamiliar because in his past life, he wouldn't have even dared to dream of such a scenario. Isn't this a bit much, even for a true blood? Huh. Zeke laughed awkwardly. Next, an old man spoke up to remind Zeke. Master Decker is waiting for you in the room. Following these words, Zeke quickly headed back to his room and asked Old Man Decker, "What is it, Decker?" In response, the old man said there was something he needed to deliver to the protagonist and handed him a luxurious box. Contained inside was a pair of high-quality gauntlets prepared for true bloods. The pair he had received earlier after awakening was just a temporary set. On this side, Zeke, after putting on the gauntlets and feeling the sensation they provided, nodded with satisfaction. Oh, it's on an entirely different level compared to those temporary ones. I'm glad you like them, Decker said with a smile. Hearing this, Zeke continued. I've received new gauntlets, so I might as well get a new sword too. What do you think, Decker? In response, Old Man Decker said that Zeke's choice was absolutely excellent. Because the territory of the Duke of Troy was near the Great Mountains, where there was plenty of high-quality iron and exceptional blacksmiths, to the point where many said the first weapon of a graduate was a masterpiece. Next, Decker offered to find a highly skilled blacksmith for Zeke. However, the protagonist refused because he already had someone in mind for the job. No need. I've already picked someone. I will go personally, so please arrange an appointment. That said, he wrote down the contact information on a piece of paper and handed it to his butler. Reading the name on the paper, a look of curiosity appeared in Decker's eyes. Galleon Halbert. I've never heard that name before. I will contact them immediately. Furthermore, classes start tomorrow, so please look over the related materials beforehand. Always nagging, I know, Zeke complained. Next, while waiting for Decker to contact that blacksmith, Zeke took the chance to look over the materials while thinking. With the Platinum Floor being completely isolated, I'll have more freedom to develop my dragon arts. Thinking this, a knock suddenly rang out from outside, cutting off his train of thought. Enter. Zeke spoke up, and seeing that he had given permission, a maid stepped inside and announced, "Pardon me, master. Floor Master Rihanna has sent an invitation for dinner." Hearing this, although a bit curious as to why, Zeke nodded in agreement. "Fine, take me there." The scene shifts to the building's rooftop. The layout of this place looked exactly like one of those flower gardens specifically used for hosting tea parties. Quite interesting, isn't it? It looks like something out of those southern gangs. Opposite him, the female swordsman, RNA, seeing Zeke arrive, nodded in greeting. "Welcome, Zeke Draker. My family is a bit unusual. My apologies." That said, she snapped her fingers to signal her subordinates to leave. On this side, Zeke, though a bit surprised, didn't pay much mind to it. "Thanks for the concern. Well, then we'll talk after we eat," Ray replied, shifting to Zeke. While Riona was ordering the food, he narrowed his eyes and assessed her. The Lightning Knight, she's optimizing her Danshin to control aura and already has her eyes on the rank of Crimson Knight. So then, why has her swordsmanship reached a stalemate? What a waste of potential. Zeke sighed inwardly. Thus, the two calmly shared a meal together. And after looking at the stack of plates 3 times her own size, next to Rihanna, Zeke felt like he was questioning reality. I'm a big eater myself, but her appetite is truly beyond my expectations, Zeke thought, looking at Rian with a strange gaze. Meanwhile, Ri seemed indifferent to the look, calmly wiping her mouth with a napkin and speaking to get to the point. "We finished eating, so I'll get to the main issue. Accept the support of the Turan family, Zeke Draker." On the opposite side, the protagonist's expression changed immediately upon hearing this. Then he gave Riona a reminder to make her aware of the situation. "It seems you've forgotten, but we are both true blood awakened." In response, Rian nearly laughed at Zeke's naivety. "It seems you've misunderstood true blood awakened. It's true we receive many privileges. This platinum floor alone is enough proof, but we receive no benefits when it comes to growth. Centuries of academic and practical knowledge accumulated in the academy. A personal instructor to effectively improve one's strength. Without these, no matter how rich you are, you'll be left behind. That is why family support is necessary." Pausing for a heartbeat, RNA provided a living example for Zeke to understand. Even Abel Draker, a true blood like us, the youngest person ever to achieve the ranks of White Knight and Black Knight, currently receives support from his mother's side, the Zimmons family. Although the head of the Turan family didn't tell me the reason, he told me you won't be receiving support from your mother's house. I'll say it once more. Accept the Turan family support, Zeke Draker, the swordswoman said with eyes full of seriousness. However, even after she listed all the benefits, Zeke waved it off in refusal. "No." Hearing his answer, Renee's face turned completely blank. Then, unable to suppress her curiosity, she asked why receiving support from the Terran family isn't exactly a disadvantage for you. In response, Zeke stood up from his chair and answered softly, "It's not about that. I don't need anything more than what I've already received as a true blood awakened like this. It's not much, but enough to repay for the meal. I'll give you a piece of advice right now. Your sword has too much power behind it. I guess you're too mindful of that person. Listen carefully, Rian. Your greatest strength is the flexibility that comes from a supple body. Don't take attacks hidden and try to crush opponents with power. Instead, flexibly parry the opponent's attacks aside and deliver a single refined and precise strike. If you can do that, you will grow much stronger than you are now." As he spoke, Zeke lightly swept his hand through the air, causing the surrounding leaves to swirl around him like a whirlwind. Having done this, Zeke waved goodbye to the swordsman. "So, there you go. Thanks for the meal." Returning to Rihanna, after hearing those words from Zeke, she involuntarily clenched her hand tight. The Turan family is the symbol of strength. I was simply following tradition. It wasn't that I was being mindful of other people. But he's right. I've been obsessed with becoming someone worthy of the Chiron name. And as a result, this has unconsciously seeped into my swordsmanship. He simply saw right through it. When I was a child, everyone praised me as a genius, and no one ever gave me real advice. "Z Draker, who on earth are you?" She wondered aloud. Back at Zeke's location, he had already left the dormitory building and was wandering around the campus. "All of my class skills have changed, and their efficiency is insane. How am I still fine, even after staying up all night to train?" Zeke grumbled. This was thanks to his infinite vitality class skill, which allowed all fatigue to be rapidly compensated by an infinite amount of life force. It was the upgraded version of the abundant vitality skill. Returning to the story, while walking, Zeke observed the students practicing around him and thought, "In my past life, I thought this place was hell. But now that I'm an official awakened, this place has become a paradise. Money and power aren't everything. But there's nothing else quite like this," he remarked to himself. At that moment, Owen's voice suddenly called out from behind him. Zeke Draker, so you're in the special class too. Hearing someone call him, the protagonist glanced back and quickly recognized the individual, Owen Zimmons, the third young master of the Zimmons family, one of the three great families. Because of the Zimmons' specialty in scheming, he used others to bully me while cunningly maintaining a perfect public image. But why is he acting so friendly now? Opposite him, Owen pretended to be kind-hearted and spoke up.